You're listening to The View from Up Here, an equipping podcast by Viewpoint Leadership and Development. Our vision is to cultivate a change in the way the world views leadership and development, and our mission is to foster better leaders through a modern approach while developing individuals into their true selves. My name's Brad Walbridge, your host for our time together, and joining me in our conversations is our president and founder, Josh Trout, and our COO, Joel Archeri.
Well, welcome to the View from Up Here podcast. My name is Joel. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Viewpoint Leadership. I am Sans, Josh Trout, our founder, as well as the hostess with the mostest, Brad Walbridge. But I am joined by a good friend of the show, Andy Garrison, the host of the We Think We Talk podcast, found on all streaming platforms. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, and
Right.
also joined by Maddie, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications for the American Heart Association. Thank you both for being here.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for having
You're
us.
welcome.
Very excited to be here.
Awesome. So for you, not many people might know about the American Heart Association because it's a nonprofit local to Greenville, right? Mm-hmm. So the big thing is I want to know what you do as the Director of Marketing Communications and also what the American Heart Association does. So love to hear that from you.
Absolutely. So the American Heart Association, we're actually coming up on our centennial, so almost 100 years of
serious?
the American Heart Association, which is so interesting and insane to believe that 100 years ago, just a group of physicians were coming together and probably had no idea the impact that they were going to make and what has grown to be a national organization located in many markets across the United States and with almost 3,000 employees. So I'm sure they had no idea what this was going to turn into. And on top of their size, just the impact that they've been able to make
Absolutely.
across the board, from research to development to volunteerism, all of those things. So the American Heart Association is focused on being a relentless force towards a world of improving healthier lives. So although heart focus, and we can definitely get into what a world of healthier living looks like, heart focus for sure, and really started out and was founded by this heart research focus, really thinking about collectively how can we improve our communities and how can we improve that community for everyone across the board. So with that, in the communications and marketing role here in the upstate, really focusing on driving that mission in the upstate. If people are not aware of what we're doing or how we're making change or the impact that we are having, then the American Heart Association's message and mission will not be driven. So, of course, there are many of things, as I'm sure both of you know, that fall under the umbrella of, what is communications, what is marketing, and I think in our world today is continuing to evolve to what that job role looks like.
True.
Constantly changing, so many updates, new platforms, whatever it may be. Kind of dabbling in all of those different areas, but really with the sole focus of driving the mission, telling those survivor stories, and allowing people to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about the thought of, because you're talking about driving essentially search engine optimization, utilizing platforms, which, everyone has to do. If you are a business owner, a leader within today's context, you have to be leveraging social media and the web in some way, or else you're not going to reach the majority of the people that would need to be reached by your message. So, but like you talked about, I love that you mentioned the survivor stories, which is one of the main wonderful aspects of the AHA. But so the question though is, how do you balance? Okay, we need to drive content. We need to make sure what's the one that's going to get more views, what's going to get more activity, what's going to get more exposure, but then also, not just being like all about driving the content, but still highlighting the mission and the vision of AHA. Like, how do you balance that as the director?
Absolutely. So I think working in nonprofit in general, you wear many hats in your role, which as a young professional, I think has been the biggest blessing because it's allowing me the opportunity to dabble in all things and learn about all things. And that's been an awesome experience. But as you said, just being genuine and organic, I think one thing I struggle as a professional in this field sometimes is making a story out of something when these are human lives. These are human experiences, and this is their life-changing experience. So one thing, always trying to find that perfect balance of meeting people with where they're at and what they're wanting to share, how they're wanting to share, and how we can do that collectively in support of both them wanting to share their story as well as supporting driving the mission of the American Heart Association. And what you kind of tapped in on too is, looking at how do we share all of those things, and really collectively we find the balance. At the end of the day, all of our work is educational, it's resourceful,
Yeah.
it is making an impact. So all of it is benefiting some outlet. Not all of our audiences are looking for educational resources during February Heart Month on
Right, yeah.
congenital heart disease. But if I'm able to share that resource and it's able to help one family here in the upstate, that's important to me,
Yeah.
whether it gets the most engagements or not. Versus when we have our Heart Ball coming up, we have our Open Your Heart honoree. We're able to feature a 3-year-old little boy born with essentially 4 different congenital heart diseases, able to tell his story. And yes, that is going to be powerful, and that is going to really drive our mission, share that personal experience of our neighbors right here in our community. And engagement-wise, search engine optimization-wise, yes, probably drive a little bit more. But at the end of the day, thinking how both of those aspects and components of my job are making an impact.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that shows that you are an authentic leader and a transparent leader yourself, because you get that at the end of the day, the people that you're highlighting are not just a means to an end, but they're a beautiful depiction of the mission and vision lived out for your organization, which I think is important. I mean, oftentimes we do get sucked up in the minutia of what we're doing, whatever we're leading
What
a
real
company.
sound is
Right,
the
yeah,
most popular,
yeah.
how many likes
plays
are
does
going
it
to
have?
get,
Yes,
what
exactly.
news outlet's going to pick up this story,
Yeah.
what's worthy of people's time and attention and all those things. So easy to get wrapped up in that.
I mean, you've noticed, so like we just, at the recording of this podcast, I just did something with Ignite Greer, which is a thing for the platform at Greer, which is a local aspect for entrepreneurs in Greer.
Yeah.
And it's starting to blow up, and now we're getting more attention from news stations and stuff, because we've had like Rick Danner, the mayor of Greer, on our podcast recently. That just
Great
went
guy.
out. Right, it's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But even that, like, it's now, how do we maximize? And there's those thoughts that go into it when it can really easily take you out of the moment of what was the reason why we did this? What's the impact outside of just reach and engagement? And I think that's really important. It makes me think, though, was there ever really a time, or tell me about a time when you ever thought, when you're in this nonprofit, like, oof, did I make the wrong decision? Like, should have just done this, because you said you went to Clemson, you were on the dance team. I'm sure you were thinking of maybe a different career path, and now you're nonprofit. Was there ever a moment where you're going,
I'll help out Clemson. You heard that, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to always put a shameless plug for the Tigers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Love them always. No. So for me, I really always knew I wanted to go into a communications field. I thought more journalism, broadcasting,
Right.
all of those things. I loved writing. I loved storytelling, loved all of those components. However, during my time in college and graduate school, I started to learn more about this interdisciplinary area of like health and communications, and learning how the power of communications allows us the opportunity to take complex ideas and theories and experiences in our health and within the health system, and make that more public, understandable knowledge for everyone.
Yeah.
So I really focused in and dived in on that, and really just kind of found a love for understanding how do we talk about those things that affect not just our physical well-being, but social, psycho, our spiritual, all of those things. How do we take something that affects our whole being and should be our most top priority in life, and make sure that everyone in the public has the right resources to be able to prioritize that, can make sure it's the most important thing in their day, and focus on that. So going into nonprofit necessarily kind of was what I was looking for. I would say maybe not a ton of people would say that.
When I grow up, I want to work for a nonprofit.
Yeah, if we're being completely honest.
Love it. Love when insurance and taxes and all that stuff. Can't wait for that.
Yes, can't wait. I would say that, and that's something we can dive into a little bit more. Nonprofit compared to for-profit, and with anything, I think just has some niche challenges for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I knew I wanted to do something that was powerful with communications.
Yeah.
I think that field oftentimes, as we were just talking about, can be looked over in the fact of, they're just looking for people to, what's the most newsworthy story,
Right.
or
Clickbait,
or, this isn't all the most factual information. It's just to pull us in, all of those things.
Right.
I think sometimes that can be a negative light shined on that. But really, I mean, we have the power to do so many great things within communications. I think after COVID, that has been seen a little bit for sure, the pandemic, realizing that in a time when the world was shut down and, we have nothing but the opportunity to communicate via platforms and
Yeah.
other types of media, seeing how powerful, in both a negative and positive way,
Right, yeah.
if we're being honest, seeing how powerful it can be. So finishing graduate school, having this opportunity fall into my lap, really, I didn't even think I was going to get this job, but I really wanted it.
Wow,
So I was
there
like,
you
I'm
go.
really going for it.
Right.
As a young professional would say that for anyone, like go after whatever it may be, like set your standard and don't let that go below. But really loved everything about this job, the organization, the team, the upstate community. There are people who do my similar role throughout the nation, and I love Greenville and the area around it too. Super supportive of that. So interesting. Yes, I wanted to go into nonprofit. I wanted to go into health. I want to make a difference. I want to use the skills that I have to hopefully make some positive influence around our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keyword, hopefully, we got to think big picture
Yeah,
sometimes, but
yeah. Well, making a big impact, a positive impact on the community makes me think about Sit and Spin Studios, where we are right now, the fantastic place that we record our podcast. Do you see what they do for you? If you are an artist or even a podcast person, like you do your podcast here,
This is my studio. Yeah.
all the bells and whistles. They don't skimp. They're not the people that get like the one-ply toilet paper. They get the best. This is what they do. Do you see all these angles? They are incredible. I cannot recommend Sit and Spin Studios any more than I am right now. But I do want to, because we're already kind of talking about you, you are involved with healthcare.
Yes.
To some degree. You know of AHA.
I do.
Why do you think AHA is such a big deal and why they are so important for us in the upstate?
Fortunately, I got introduced to the American Heart Association at an early age. My mother was in the cardiac industry.
Wow.
yeah.
And so when I was young in high school, after I would get done, my job was to go to a cardiologist office, and I'd file. So of course,
Free labor. I love it when you
yeah,
say that.
right. Yeah,
I'm
it
about to
was
say,
like,
a good
Add
parent.
that one to the resume.
do you want to eat? Do you want to eat tonight? Come file, right? So I was nonprofit back then.
That's so funny.
Not a problem. But as you can imagine, being in a cardiologist office, you have many representatives from the American Heart Association
Absolutely.
with meetings and the different doctors. But for me, and certainly, and you know me with the show,
Yeah.
I'm not even braggadocious. In my portfolio of charitable givings, one of my largest yearly contributions is to the American Heart Association.
We appreciate that.
Well, the reason is because one thing that I deeply believe, and I'm very proud that you guys have been able to accomplish for 100 years,
100 years.
is you took originally the group of people you spoke of, and they did something that I respect more than anything. They took to make the world better, to educate people, and it wasn't self-serving. It was nonprofit. It was actually to make other people's quality of life better.
Yeah.
How in the world, in now that I'm getting older, and I have to face that reality, and I want a healthy heart and many other things your organization offers. Just the information of a click. I can get that without having to really do a lot of research on my own.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm a busybody but lazy at doing it, But since that early age, with that experience with some great cardiologists that I got to work around at a very young age, and to understand, and I think the important word for me is understanding what that group, their intention and their purpose was. It was for you and I today, 100 years later, to be able to know how to be healthy and have the available resources in need of people with the knowledge to go to.
Absolutely.
To get that. But so we can actually do this thing called living life.
Yeah.
And that's your role because I use Joe unpacks my life for me in mantra. So I'm gonna throw that out. I was gonna plug that.
I
right?
knew you were going to plug that. You love mantra.
I do. I love the mantra.
Thank you.
But so your organization to me is not only that became very important in my adult life. My father ended up with many different diagnoses, cardiac. And between, obviously, the connections with my mother and the American Heart Association stepped in a huge way. And when a lot of times, sometimes we feel like we give, what we don't see a return. And it was amazing for me to see just a fraction. I mean, they came in and did so much more that was not even a fraction of what I'd ever contributed probably, and never could have put those resources together or information and the collaboration and just willing to listen or do whatever, or if they didn't know, would contact. So it's huge to understand 100 years ago, somebody cared enough for us that they knew they wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But they all have us sitting here talking about something still so relevant and so very important.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because on this podcast, we talk about leadership. We try to have great, transparent, authentic leaders on our podcast. And we highlight that there is a legacy, there's an impact, a trickle-down effect of authentic, positive leadership that extends far beyond your time at a company or your years on this earth. Right? And so it's even interesting that you're talking about that. So the ultimate goal that you talked about, it was a collaborative effort of people to say, it's not about me, it's about others, not my gain, but others, right? In the very beginning. And that has been the through line from 100 years ago to now, or even earlier, when it affected your family.
Right.
Because it's not about me, and that kept going and going and going and going. That was the legacy. And I think that's really cool to be able to be said about I can't say it every time, American Heart Association. Why do I keep abbreviating it? I'm such a millennial. Keep that in there.
AHA.
See?
The
Millennials
association, we go by the association too, so that might be easier.
Oh, the association.
The
That
association,
sounds-
yes.
So
The firm.
the legacy of the association is that it's a legacy of collaboration for the gain of others. That's what and it seems so obvious now when you talk about the stories. And I think that's so cool. That's another example that we always want to highlight on this podcast, is that there is an incredible impact of legacy that you can have if you choose the right thing. Right, but if you choose the negative thing, you will still have an impact. You'll still have a legacy, but it won't be good, right? And you'll be the person, and we've talked about this on our podcast. You'll be the person that other people are talking about on a podcast when they're like, "I didn't like that leader," right? And that's always been my conviction. I know it's Josh's conviction. I know it's your conviction. Like, we don't want to live. It's not so we don't be talked bad about, but we don't want to be that person that someone uses later as a well, I don't want to be them. Like, you want them to go, I want to be like them, or I want to be like the association. I want to do things like that. I want to live selflessly. Sorry.
No, I did not interrupt. But what I see when I see the symbol of the heart, I realize it's the physical heart. We're talking about, but in the back of my head, and many times I've thought this, it really should have a little picture of a soul.
Ooh.
Because,
But how can you depict a soul,
might have to
Andy?
pitch
well,
that one.
but because
You are the director of marketing.
you are the director of marketing,
Guys,
so,
we need a rebrand. I'm sorry.
But
I have some few ideas.
Because yes, you guys really go in and teach us and help, with the physical heart, the actual organ, but you touch so many souls, and that also lies within the heart, and so that is the essence of your nonprofit, because you clearly have to have that heart and that soul to continue the giving, because what you're doing now, 100 years, somebody will be listening to this and you'll have made that impact yourself.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal.
I do think sometimes too, working in nonprofit, and this might be a general thing, maybe not necessarily just with the association,
Right.
but at times reminding yourself of that long-term goal that yes, we have quarterly benchmarks and we want to be able to have tangible wins in the community that we are achieving. And as with any job, you need to meet those goals in order to continue to progress. But thinking big picture at time and really reeling in of, okay, what I'm doing now matters, but what I'm doing now matters for the long term too.
Yeah.
And constantly reminding yourself of that. Because if not, I think it could be easy to get kind of burnout, opportunity to not be reminded of your why. I think you always have to be in nonprofit. What is my why? Why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Well, you work hard.
And thinking, thank you. Well, I hope so. But
I mean, it's
we all
hard.
do.
It's hard work.
Yeah, but really always reminding yourself of that long-term big picture that in another 100 years from now, where are we looking at?
Yeah. Well, life is why. I'm sorry, I just stole your thing.
Yep, life is why.
Speaking of the brand, if you want to look right here, What is the significance? So you talked about there's the heart. What's the significance of the torch?
The torch, yes. So it was a part of the original brand development 100 years ago.
Wow.
Really,
Carry on.
yes, absolutely. It has been updated and altered a little bit,
I knew you were gonna do
obviously. But it is just being that light, being that that trailblazer, that charger, and making a difference in our communities,
That's so
and
cool.
continuing to light the way for, once again, the next 100 years. And those that have come before us, those are here with us presently, and those that will be with us in the future. So always keeping that. And I think for me too, personally, just a reminder of the light that, I can be in my job as a leader throughout the community, going and meeting with volunteers and connecting with people is one of my favorite parts of the job, obviously, but kind of knowing your place in that role too, that sometimes someone just wants you to listen. They want you to hear their story.
Yes.
They might not want to do anything with it other than to have someone who knows what they're not necessarily going through personally, but has a relationship with the cause of what they're dealing with. So
Why did you just point at me?
Because that's what you're the master
Oh,
at.
I was. Oh, sorry.
Because when you have that issue in life,
You are plugging. I swear you should be the sponsor. Next time I should.
No, I'm not.
Sponsored by Andy Garrison, who can't stop talking about Mantra. Keep going.
No, but no, it's that's why I think this particular show is actually great because it falls right in your platform.
Yeah.
Because everything that you personally do, because I keep up with you, I watch.
Stop.
But it's yours. Your future based. You're helping people for not tomorrow, but for 10, 20 years.
Yeah, you can't forget. So because the beauty of it is you are the subject matter expert of yourself. You're the only one that knows your past. You're the only one who could know what your desire for the future is, so that you're just so uniquely in a position that you can know yourself. And actually, that's why I think it's so cool that you guys held on to an older traditional aspect of your logo, which is why.
very rooted in
Yes,
where
well, I
we
mean,
started
you've seen
from.
there's been a lot of rebranding of different kinds of companies, Pepsi, Burger King, all those kind of things, and a lot of them have gone back, so they went too far and got rid of the older way.
So
And
mad
then-
they got rid of Pepsi Clear.
Well, and then that's a really very specific
I'm just saying, you throw it out
hill
there.
to
That's
die on
like
right now. But they
American
had
Heart-
Branding's a
Sorry
whole
about
nother
that.
topic we could dive into.
they had to go back because there was such an outcry. And I think it's because, I would just say, the difference between the association and companies like that, for profit, all about the margin. Non-profit, especially about the legacy, the positive impact, you wouldn't essentially shun the past that you've had and say we don't need that part of our logo anymore because we're trying to be new. It's there's always an aspect of the past you have to carry because it's a part of who you are. And if you lose that, you lose those people that were impacted by that version or that stage of that company, which I think is also about personal development. If you simply look at your past, which I've done in my past because I look at what I used to do and now what I do now, it's easy to look back and be like, I don't want to remember that and I don't want to ascribe value to that. But if you do, you lose an aspect of yourself that did leave an impact on those people. And if you say, I don't want to think about that, maybe you now don't get the opportunity to leave that impact on people, which actually brings me to my next question. So you are the director of marketing communications. You're all about the branding. But how do you balance because you have to kind of build a personal brand now. That's especially something in today's, LinkedIn influencers are a thing. But you have to build your brand, but also it still has to kind of fit alongside the brand of your company because it can't clash or else, they'll probably fire you. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing first and foremost, and I actually was thinking about this a lot this past week, just as I'm a newer Greenville resident and newer in this role, really wanting to tap into, all the young professional, young adult opportunities.
Yeah, that Greenville.
Yeah, that Greenville. Tap into all those opportunities to really build, as you said, to my personal brand and how that relates to my professional brand as well. And one of those things is I think working in nonprofit, it could often be hard to look into other opportunities to serve, but unfortunately there is so much need in our community and they're all working to do great things. I think when I first started in nonprofit, I really battled with this idea of why is my good work better than someone else's good work? And really, that's not the case because we all support each other. We all, at the end of the day, all of our missions are driven to improve our Greenville upstate community. And we can do that by supporting each other where we lack in resources or funding and come together to be able to do that. So with that, I've really tried to tap into volunteering my time in other communities as well and other nonprofits here. And that's been a really great opportunity to learn professionally what are other nonprofits doing. I know I work with the Meals on Wheels Young Professionals, just kind of started doing that, just getting involved in there too. So looking forward to being able to give some more of my time. But, what are they doing that I can be supportive of? And, long term, how will that maybe support me professionally as well as support our organization? Maybe there's opportunity for us to partner that we haven't seen yet, and we could grow on improving their heart healthy meals or providing resources on heart health or whatever it may be. So trying to find the balance of that too. And I think at the core of it, and although all of us are, great people and want to do great things, I think working in nonprofit, you do have to have a servant's heart, and you have to really, as I said, you have to live by that mission. So reminding myself of that day in and day out. I promise you, after I get off of a call with someone who is after all the Damar Hamlin stuff and CPR, and he's a top athlete. I'm thinking I need to go to the gym right now. I need to go make sure my CPR skills are refreshed. I'm teaching all my family at the next time we're together, we're Super Bowl Sunday. We learn CPR together. All of those things. So continuing to just allow that to kind of infiltrate into my personal life as well. And I know there's obviously balance in, career, work-life balance, all of that's super important too, but in wanting to be a part of that mission and to live that mission, I think you have to navigate the balance there and learn that it is going to overlap at times. And I love it. I think it's special. I think it's awesome. I love what I do, and I love being able to share that in my personal life as well.
Do you not mind the fact that you typically have to wear red all the time?
It's funny.
I was just gonna say, if it's not your color, that would be really bad.
It is funny though, because I have about 3 pieces of red clothing currently, and I just have to rotate them. So I told myself around Christmas.
And it's not even like a maroon or a burgundy.
It is red.
It is red.
Red.
Yes. I told myself, and I was like, around Christmas, I've got to buy some more red things because I look crazy not showing up in my red. But no, I love it. I think it is a color that pops for sure. And I think in about a year or so, as long as I'm still with the AHA, which I plan to be, my whole closet will probably be mostly red.
Funny.
Well, what I think is real cool is that I like, and I think this is needed with anything on moving. You being a young professional, new in the role, and definitely working hard to get the word out. You're bringing a whole new demographic of people.
It's true.
And that is going to be the livelihood for a long time for the association.
Well, and thinking just in our community in general too, looking at the age demographics now, like Greenville's a fairly young city. It is popping.
I can't keep up.
There is so many. It's growing, and there's so many people moving here, so many career opportunities. So learning, our future leaders, getting them involved younger, and being involved in nonprofit and supporting your community I feel like sometimes people think it has to mean financially. I'll be honest, I don't have the means to support very strongly financially at the moment. I'm a young adult. I work in nonprofit, a lot of things.
And right now the economy is a little bit rough.
Not great for you.
So it's difficult, but that can be with your time. You can volunteer if you can take on leadership roles. That means just including and reaching out to your own networks. I know Josh, he has such a great network and volunteers so much of his time for us, and
He's smiling right
we
now.
would not be able to do that without him. And so,
Josh, I like your smile too. You look great.
So reminding people of that at a younger age. You don't have to be well into your career or, super well established to start making an impact and to start getting involved, because you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So that is definitely too wanting to really grow that in our volunteerism. We started working with the School of Medicine in Greenville a lot, which is a great asset to our community here, and tapping into a lot of different other age demographics is important as well.
So, you brought up Damar Hamlin. So it's interesting. I thought about this too, because you guys brought it up too, like COVID. There are always events that kind of like wake people up to need for healthier living. How do you feel like? So both of you, because you're both in healthcare, how do you feel like we've done? Let's just say broadly, as in response to like COVID and Damar Hamlin and saying like we need to live healthier? Do you think we've done well? How do you think we can improve? And then so like just generally, and then maybe just granularly, how do you think like the upstate's done as a result? So you can start first, Andy. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Three things pop just real quick to this, and I think honestly because I had a show yesterday that I really spoke kind of on this. Three things I've learned about this, and you're a younger adult. I'm in that middle world, we'll say. But three things right away popped from the experience of looking back over the last 3 years. For me, because my job in healthcare is completely very social.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a social butterfly. If I'm not on the show, I'm in the car traveling, talking to people, shaking hands. That's what I
Kissing
like to do.
babies, yeah.
Yeah.
All the things.
All the things. You know, I know your pain. But the three things that I realized, the very first thing that came was very personal to me, was for my children. I have 2 adult children, both in college. 2 adult. Yeah, they're children.
Yeah, they're children.
They're adults, but they're in college. But one thing, my mindset changed instantly. I don't want rich children. I want happy children. That all of a sudden, that really was important to me now. The success, financial, I don't think so much of that anymore as their happiness in life.
Yeah.
And I believe that will come.
Yeah.
But you got to have that happy first. I believe that the second thing that I know for a fact that I saw with my eyes is that that was a real hard 2 o'clock early in the morning wake up call when the pandemic hit, that we weren't ready for that wake up.
Yeah.
But like every failure or bad event, we have learned.
Yeah.
We have taken the young professionals, the people that have viewed it from a different set of eyes, and we proactively started making changes.
Yeah, it's true.
And so that once again, just like the association, just like your company, I mean, everything is going to service people for a long time.
Yeah, it's true.
And we're not going to repeat some of those mistakes.
Right.
And probably the third thing for me that this is taught and definitely changed is self-happiness.
Yeah, yeah.
Before the day was scheduled, I feel, because I can look back and still see it, but it still seems like it was 100 years ago now,
Right,
because
yeah.
the cloud has been so very wild, right?
Crazy 3 years.
Yes.
But I would look at my calendar, the alarm would go off, the clothes I had pressed, the day before or whatever.
The rigid routine.
It was just a
Yeah.
routine, and honestly, I didn't look up at the sky.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
You didn't appreciate.
I didn't even tell my family how much I appreciated them, and I did.
Yeah.
My heart truly did.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize the importance of a word.
That's good.
For just a brief moment in time.
And so three things just from one event.
Yeah.
Now forever, until
Have
my
impacted
eyes
you.
close. Yeah, until my name is called.
Yeah.
I'll ensure that I do better for organizations that I know are
impact
they
that,
need
yeah.
my help.
Yeah.
And when I'm able to help, I will.
Yeah.
I'll forever not let somebody that I care about, whether it's a good friend or
Right.
a loved family one, walk out with maybe a pat on the back or a love you or something to let them know, because now I'm very, very, I use the new word aware, but that's the last time I could see them.
Yeah. It's true.
And I didn't think of that prior. So just those three simple
Yeah.
things have created a new routine and forever in my life, a new me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that
Yeah.
in another word, but
I would agree with all of those things.
Yeah, I was
as
gonna say,
well.
what
I approach it differently
Yeah.
now. I appreciate the simple things.
Yeah.
It's nothing is if it's not going to matter in 5 minutes,
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
or it's not going to matter in
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it 5 years of my
Yeah.
life to worry about it. I'm
So-
going to take the now.
So the cool thing you talked about too was your perspective. You're a little older. You're in a different kind of field within healthcare. But then,
Right.
like you even said, our generation's a little different. So what about you? How was it for you?
Absolutely. So I was just finishing up school. So as far as entering into the workforce, had no idea where I was going,
Yeah.
if I was going to have any job at all, which is interesting because, there's so much pressure, as you kind of said too, like this routine in our everyday life, but in what's expected of your life in general to, graduated high school, went to college, went to grad school, get a job, get married, whatever it may be, whatever your path looks like. And not saying that it has to be that way, but just this general understanding of what your life timeline looks like. And so when that was all happening, obviously the life timeline was altered for a minute and put on hold. And I would definitely just agree with, similarly to all the things you said, just taking a moment to really reel it in and remind myself, what is it that I want in this life of mine? I think a lot of people fresh out of school or just entering into the workforce take whatever the first job they can get. Because you got to take it, you got to make money, you got to support yourself. It's time to grow up, which is, I totally understand that for sure. But I think that time really allowed me to reflect on what you mentioned as well. Where am I going to be happy? I want to love the work that I'm doing. I want to do something that's meaningful, even maybe not necessarily to the community at times, but to me, for myself, and how that's going to really impact the rest of my life also. So I would definitely hit on all of those things as well. And then I think too, we kind of touched on Damar Hamlin CPR as well, how that's altered. One of the things that I've really noticed is people, taking the initiative to want to learn.
Yeah.
So after that happened, obviously being on such a public stage, obviously we're so thankful for his recovery, and may he continue to be healthier and live the rest of his life freely and fully. But people were calling and emailing and reaching out, like, we want to set up CPR training for our company, or we did CPR training for a Girl Scout troop, or our family, or, our church, whatever it may be. And I think a lot of times we see things that impact us that significantly. It happens, and then we get through it, and then we get over it, and then even though we still reflect on it, and we can still talk about how it's like COVID, Damar Hamlin, whatever, how it's all impacted us still, we just kind of get back into that routine.
Yeah.
And I think both of those situations are really good examples of how we forever have changed in a lot of outlets, but also people taking initiative with CPR specifically for me in my career, wanting to learn that, wanting to prioritize that, and still looking for opportunity, not just a month later, but, still wanting to plan for the future and educate people and all of those things. So I think that's a really great quality, is people really grabbing life by the reins and just taking action and making initiative, not talking about it, but actually doing it.
So we're living again. What about you?
Oh, me? I think for me, it was just, so I'm not in healthcare, but, so as a co-owner of a CrossFit gym, for me, I see a lot of people who are trying to get healthier, who are healthy, who are trying to change some aspects of their life. And it's just a great reiteration for me that there is, we only have one body, and we can only do with it what we have every day. And we can choose to take care of it, or we can choose not to. But, not everyone, just because you take care of it, is going to, so Damar Hamlin, he's a pro athlete.
He's in the top 1% of peak health.
Exactly.
And I think on this earth.
He's almost like me,
Well, the great thing about
Me too.
the great thing about COVID was it did show you that the rat race doesn't matter.
Right.
You can be as healthy as you want to be, but stuff can still happen.
Yeah.
And so it does reframe your perspective,
Yes.
and it does make you appreciate things more. And so even for me, I think the harvest of people who are more introspective, who are more I need to rethink life. That harvest is greater now for people like Viewpoint Leadership to kind of come in and say, hey, you are rethinking things. Let's kind of walk alongside you. Yeah, it did have a pause in your life because it changed the way you worked, right? I work from home. Cisco has always done work from home, but like every company did work from home for a little bit, right? And that changed people because they started to see, I could spend more time at home. Now I start to see what I was missing when I was at work. Maybe I want to spend more time. And so it caused a lot of people to rethink or just spend more time thinking, which meant they were better able to have conversations with people like Viewpoint. And so that's actually positively affected our business in that way too. But I want to end with you because, so the association, we've already talked about why it's so important, which I'm so glad we did. How can people support your organization? How can they support the association? How can they, consume content? That kind of stuff. How can you tell the listeners? And
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, there are numerous abundance of ways to show support. We have opportunities from volunteering, whether that be if you are CPR certified and you want to teach trainings and you want to participate in that, you can volunteer in those ways. You can volunteer in support of our events. So we have Heart Walk, which is a huge community event. Everyone's welcome to come, promoting heart healthy walking, all of the things. We do have a Heart Ball event, which is a little bit more of a gala, black tie, a little bit,
cool.
which is fun. You can volunteer for that as well. We do Go Red for Women campaigns, in which we do some events around that. You can volunteer, supporting women's health. Outside of that, any type of resource you may need in relation to healthy living, heart health, all of those things, we can provide in whatever way possible. So if you are a school teacher and you want to provide congenital heart disease resources for your parents or whatever it may be, or if you are just someone working in your company and you just want to bring more awareness to it because you have personal connection, whatever it may be, resources are always available for that as well. And really any other way in between. We work with a lot of community partners as well. So if you want to get involved in supporting those community partners or supporting some of those initiatives, you are not only supporting the American Heart Association, you have the opportunity to support ample organizations around here as well as we collectively bring our efforts together.
Wonderful.
So anything under the moon you can think of, we can probably make happen. We'll probably want to make happen, which can be a difficulty of nonprofit at times. You never want to not take advantage of a great opportunity. So we say yes to a lot of things.
Love it.
Which is always great as well.
And what about financially? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it can be as simple as supporting us by going to AmericanHeart.org, and you can do that. Or
And then when you click on the Greenville, like specifically
in
for
the
area,
upstate, when you click on the upstate area in order to show your support. But I think one thing too that our team really focuses on, obviously we need all that support in those ways as well. But you can support through mission opportunity as well. So if you want to provide, you want to fund blood pressure cuffs for blood pressure cuffs
That's
to be
cool.
given to our local community. When we do our health fairs, they can be given to community members who might not have access to those
That's cool.
things.
We might know people.
might know people.
Or we just we're able to donate a refrigerator to a local community organization, and so that they can now have more fresh produce for the people who use their food pantry.
Yeah,
so
that's
showing
cool.
support in those ways too, I think, is equally valuable,
Yeah.
and definitely takes a little bit more time to figure out, okay, what do I want to be a part of? What do I want to make an impact on?
But there's plenty of opportunity.
But plenty of opportunity. We're never going to say no to some dollars.
So you're on all social media, Facebook,
Yep,
Instagram.
American Heart SC on all the things.
Awesome.
So at American Heart SC.
Well, Maddie, thank you so much for being on. Obviously,
Thank y'all for
Viewpoint,
having
we got to
us.
partner up and do some things.
Yes,
Maybe we'll speak at the
absolutely.
gala. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But don't say yeah to that.
No, the gala's awesome.
I would love
That's
to.
black
I always
tie.
want to be black tie. I
Yes.
always want to do that. I like dressing
Yes.
nice. And then, as always, Andy, what a joy you are to have on the podcast.
Try.
You're so great. No, it's not just because you were buttering me up the whole time. But thank you so much, Maddie.
Thank
you so much
y'all.
for being on this
This has been
podcast. Thank
great.
you all for listening. You can find this on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as Facebook. But also, yes, please listen to this. And we're going to link all this stuff for American Heart Association SC in our show notes. And when we post this, please think about supporting Maddie and what she's doing. I can't think of a better thing to support with your time and your finances. But thank you guys so much. Hope you have a wonderful day. See you later.